Welcome back, everybody. Dip Catcher Radio back again. Another exciting stream. Today, we are going to be finishing up what we started working on yesterday, which was finalizing the Hedron HSI liquidation auction executor functions for bidding on HSIs via the Maximus pool that we're launching. So for the people that are new today, Maximus is the next hex stake pool that we're rolling out. What's different about this one is that rather than bundling hex and then staking the hex, we are bundling Hedron and then bidding on HSIs in these upcoming liquidation auctions, and then converting those HSIs into a basket of a basket of these HSIs, converting them into a normal Maximus stake pool. So all the same benefits for owning and bidding on these HSIs that are procured through these auctions. Similar user benefits as just joining the normal Maximus staking pools, such as you're going to be earning more hex per Hedron bid due to the larger stakes that you're going to be able to hold. You're going to save 99% on gas for ending those stakes. And then the liquidity benefit is probably going to be really dominant in this case because these HSIs on their own, they're not particularly liquid. Because they're sold as NFTs. So you have to find the right buyer at the right time at the right price for your NFT. But compared to the stake pool tokens, they're just normal ERC20s, and so they're just saleable on Uniswap. So big difference there in the liquidity. So that's a big benefit that we're bringing to these HSIs, is that we're helping make them more liquid. Sure, ICOSA is like an element there, but you're for a way to sell that. But then then it's just reliant on the liquidity of the ICOSA buyers market as far as capturing that value. So that's the premise that we're going to be rolling out. We have to roll it out. We have about a month left because on the 13th of November is when these auctions start, and we want it all to be ready by then. So let's see what the chat has to say. Nikki Beast is first to like. I'm cool. What will the mystery box get? That's a good question. What do you think they should get? That is yet to be decided. Not even a mystery yet. It just hasn't been decided yet. What do you think, Doug? Let us know. So, I mean, there was a lot of good discussion today and yesterday about here. Let me share my screen. We'll go through these conversations here. Let me see. So you're saying there's time to buy more heat? Yeah, you probably got about like 20 days or so, 23 days maybe. Nikki asks, how to go with your combo with Vince? Missed it. Yeah, so my main takeaways were that the bids so far may not be very reliable in making inferences upon, because it sounds like there were just a small handful of bidders and they were paying really high premiums just so they could bid. And so I don't know if like that type of, and also there are only 29 total auctions so far. There's about to be 6,000. So just the whole, there's a lot of these coming available. I mean, just for instance, there's 89 unique ones that have over 1 million hex staked. So these are, are widely spread across. So that was my main takeaway. Was that we can't really look to prior auctions for any type of indication. What I was showing on my screen was, let's take a look at this. Um, so we have this. I was just discussing this topic. Some people were saying that I should just do it. Miguel says I think it should be same one with a whale status in poly. But the problem with that is that if you have someone who, or if it's like left up to just like popular vote, that means that the largest holders of poly have the biggest advantage, and or the largest holders of poly are the ones that um, have the most sway, and that can give them an advantage because if you're the largest poly holder, you're probably also just have a bunch of hedron on the sideline too. And so if you can control the poly bidding, you can make it so that poly doesn't bid on ones that you um, that you uh, would also be bidding on. So that's one reason to make it so that the poly bid executor isn't just the largest poly holder, because whoever is the largest poly holder could game the system to benefit themselves, and that's exactly what we want to avoid. And so with the current plan to have just like an executor be an appointed address that users don't have expectations of, they realize that the executor could underperform, and they're also aware of the ways that the design of the contract mitigates the risk of underperformance from the executor. That being just like a single address where bidding happens at their discretion, that can solve that problem because, as opposed to someone taking over, it's, now it's just like, do you think that the executor is going to do that is really like the question. And so, so I'm still leaning a lot more towards the just single executor model, and it's for that reason is that there's probably going to be a little bit more protection just from like having a large dominant ecosystem player just be able to game it for themselves. St. George says only absolute degens, please. Yeah, it's kind of a running, especially with the timing of these auctions and how they work. It's going to be quite the craziness. Nick asks, if you make a bid and someone outbids you, do you get the hedron you bid with right back that you can try to outbid again, or you got to wait until the auction? Yeah, so when somebody outbids you, the hedron is delivered to you immediately. So, like in that same transaction, is how it works. This guy said, "I pledge my vote to you," and then he said it'd be cool to be live streaming, and then Space Unicorns says maybe not live stream. And then Vince said he's won his. Then Michelle says, everybody replying here, I have huge ego equal bad for bidding. Bidding on poly must be bound by contract rules. Bidder could best only approve. Yeah, I mean it's kind of hard to bind anything by contract rules because you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage. And it's not like you really gain much out of it. Like the worst case scenario of like a rogue executor is basically the same worst case scenario as just like yourself. If you were to be bidding, like either you pay more than what they're worth or you don't win anything. And so it's kind of like, it almost doesn't even make a difference. It's like you're only giving yourself a disadvantage and you're not giving yourself some particular advantage. So I think he says you totally should be the one to do the bidding, live stream it like you're doing now. Maybe. That'd be pretty cool. Live stream the auction. These auctions could last literally weeks. So I'd love to see this group as executors. Yeah, I mean, one way that I'm strongly leaning towards is because like there could be a lot of value in like kind of crowdsourcing that information, but maybe like on the executor dashboard interface that the executor has, or maybe just everyone like there's a dashboard for users to like vote off chain and just like put forth their ideas for it, and then based on how much poly they have is like how we weigh that information, and then that information is just passed along to the executor, and then also maybe there's like a public chat, or not a public chat, a chat for poly holders in the executor, so that people can be just monitoring these opportunities and doing analysis and putting forth their ideas and stuff. So um, so that could be a key, a key piece of it is that, because I'm sure the executor, whomever that ends up being, would want to have support and have help. So that's why I'm going to do it. Niggas, just take a poll. I bet the community rally behind you more than not. You've already proved yourself to the community by going above and beyond. Yeah, I mean, realistically, people probably would be okay, at least if I chose the executor. Because, really, the executor really should remain a mystery in terms of who it is and their own strategy. So you really shouldn't even assume that it's me doing it, but perhaps the community would support me. Just because it's what it comes down to is who that executor is comes down to this address. It's just like a single line of code to determine which addresses can run. See how it says require executor equals message.sender. So whether it's me doing the actual bidding or me entering it there, it's like you're kind of already not trusting me, but perhaps you're trusting my judgment on the structure of these contracts. And so, maybe just, and realistically, that's just how it would be, because it's like, okay, if you don't like it, you just don't participate. Like there's no one forcing you to do this stuff. Made stakes in the house. What's up, dude? I guess let's just go over this real quick, just to kind of recap what we've done so far. So we basically have these are the different things we're using. So we're using the ICOSA contract, we're using the Hex contract, we're using the Hedron contract, we're using the HSI contract, and we're using the HSI manager contract. So these are all the different contracts that the Poly Maximus contract interacts with. All these up here. So pretty wild, actually, that this is how it is. And so basically, like, these are just the things that we store. They're basically just like how the Hedron contract stores the liquidations and how the Hex contract stores the stake information. We have a couple of events. We actually need to add some more events like bid. And then here's just how we define our interfaces to the contracts. So we have Hex, Hedron, HSI manager, ICOSA. And then here we just initialize like our launch variables. And so basically, when the contract is deployed, it schedules the minting phase start day and the minting phase end day. So this will be set to end on the moments before the auctions start taking place. Then it turns on, it enables the redemption, where you can redeem before the minting phase ends, you can redeem your poly 1-to-1 with the Hedron. And then it sets this value for last stake start day. And that's just something that's used later. And then we have this is the function for minting poly. You just mint with one Hedron and you mint that amount of poly. Very simple, 4 lines of code here. And then here's the redeem poly, where we have the based on the hex redemption rate, the hedron redemption rate, and the Icosa redemption rate, you can redeem those amounts by burning your poly tokens. So it calculates how much is redeemable for each of the coins. It burns your coins, and then it sends you the hedron, the hex, and the Icosa. This is a function called finalize minting. So there's two important pieces here. There's this thing called total bidding budget and the hedron staking budget, and those are values that we're as a way to mitigate risk of having the executor bidding on behalf of everybody. One way to mitigate that we thought was to just not bid all of the HSIs. So just add like, it's almost like an overpaying cap by not even, by making the hedron staking actually a like significant part of the whole poly system. So by having the poly contract staking hedron, where part of the treasury is held in HSIs that it bids on, which there's uncertainty there, combined with the certainty of hedron staking, because hedron staking is a fine solution too, and there's these bigger pays better bonuses baked into there. So that was one of the main reasons why we decided to make the hedron staking a larger part of it, where this is like a combination of like a hex pool and a hedron staking pool. And that's just, to help mitigate that executor risk. That's like a way to really throttle it, is to just, now it's like, some percent of the treasury isn't dependent on executor performance. So that's what happens during this like last phase of minting. So what it does is it takes the hedron and it calculates how much is going to be the bidding budget and how much is going to be the hedron staking budget, and then it just simply runs from the Icosa contract hedron stake start whatever amount is set to be staked. And so right when the minting ends, a big giant hedron stake will start, and then over time, as the stakes end, we either restake them if there's enough time, or we just end the stakes and then we update the redemption rates. So that's kind of how that works. We also do something where every time a new HSI enters the contract, we have to run this thing to process it. So this like helps the scheduling and allows for the HSI to be teed up to end. Then here's a function called stake leftover hedron. So if 14 days go by without any bidding, we assume that the executor is done bidding. And so once that happens, anybody can run this function called stake leftover hedron, and that takes all the leftover hedron that was not cast as a bid to, or at least did not successfully contribute to an HSI in the auction. All that leftover hedron is just simply added to the stake using the hedron stake add capital. So like worst case scenario, say the executor just doesn't do anything, like they simply just don't do a single thing, then poly is basically just a hedron staking pool, which is awesome on its own. Like that's really awesome. Is that like even in like what would be considered like a worst case scenario, or like even in a situation where the desired outcome is not ideal, it still is an awesome thing in general. Like, so that's just how, that's all part of kind of the speculative game around poly is, the balance, like the balance of the HSIs and the balance of the staked hedron, which is going to be earning Icosa. Will ETH Pow and ETH Fair have the opportunity to swap their HEDs with Poly? Maybe. I mean, if they're still around in a month. I haven't looked at any of the volume information or any of the interest over there, but maybe. For some, swapping Hedgeron for Poly could be a taxable event. If Hedgeron price pumps into this project, that could create a tax obligation from the swap. Be careful, folks, and do your own research. Yeah, but also, because it's, you never know what it's going to do after. So definitely everyone should do their own research. Yeah, I mean, really, like there's really more. The main stuff left to do is really just to be testing, because if we end up doing this executor model, then it really is as simple like that. That's another benefit of just having a sole executor instead of like some type of voting system for the executors, and so you don't have to build anything. So that's just like one less attack surface there. So I guess what we should do is should probably just start getting this, like just start making progress on the because there's really not much to do related to the executor, since just the more I talk through it, and I was talking to people all day about this, it probably just makes the most sense to just have some type of off-chain recommendation engine that poly holders can contribute to the discussion for, and like put forth bid recommendations, and then have it where the executor's job is to just curate that information and then use that information and plus their own judgment in the moment by moment basis to just have that. So I think probably just some type of combination of like maybe on our, let's switch the other screen. So maybe something with the, like on this web app, like this data site that I'm mainly building just for my own research and assessment. Maybe this gets turned into some type of dashboard where you have to sign a message from an address that owns Poly, and then you can like put forth a like some type of putting forth some type of recommendation where you don't have to do anything on chain, but it's just like you submit a signed message off chain, and then the executor maybe has something to decode the signed messages to prove that it's like from a poly holder, and then information kind of bubble up that way, just to help the executor, like because whoever the executor ends up being, they probably welcome other insights and other people analyzing the stuff to help, because all that information is important, especially with like how in real time this stuff is. And so maybe that's like a nice balance that we can have, is where the executor, it really is kind of just at their discretion. Because I thought about other models where like there's some type of like veto power, but anytime it's like you introduce one level to it, it's like you still are really relying on one person or a handful of people, and there's really not big of a difference there. And so just I think to not have to build all kinds of extra stuff where something could go wrong, I think that our original idea of just like a single executor model is probably just going to be the way it's going to have to be, and everyone's just factor that risk in, and also factor in the benefits of that because there's no additional risk. Because at the end of the day, the performance of the executor is kind of a tiny part of the whole value. The main value drivers really comes down to just the hex versus hedge price. Like how much do these things go up, and we're counteracting the risk of poor executor performance by allocating more of the treasury than just like the leftovers to hedge and staking. So that alone helps mitigate the risk in a big way. Because Blue Bum asks, he says, is there going to be any restrictions on the executor's bids, like never bidding for more than a stake is worth? So not necessarily, because what that does is it forces you to make if you're having to build that into the code, you're having to make a prediction on what the market will think the stake is worth measured in the hedron at the time. So what it's worth may be entirely different than what the market prices are today. And so it's kind of hard to place those restrictions, because the hedron price could change in between now and then, the hex price could change between now and then, and also then it's like what do you even determine that stake to be worth, right? Is it the principal? Because here, right here on my dashboard, I have this principal value measured in hedron. So let's sort by these. So the largest principal value of a stake measured in hedron is about 89 billion hedron. So is that the value that you look at? And it also includes this one. It doesn't have any bonuses, so it can mint in addition to that 7 billion hedron. So the net principal value plus the hedron that it can earn is something like 96 billion hedron. But at the end of the stake, it's going to be worth 482 billion hedron, roughly, if you take just projecting current daily payout per T-share. So what even is more than a stake is worth? Is it is it more closely tied to the principal where where you don't bid on it unless with that same amount of hedron today you could just independently buy hex and then stake it and get the same effective thing. So it's hard to even just impose that thing there. And so and also rather than, and what if for some reason we put some restriction on bids that are more than what we think a stake is worth, but then if the market things in the market change in between now and then perhaps stakes become worth it. Then, and if we already imposed restrictions on the bidding, then we could there's risk of us just misappraising what is the word, what's the threshold that a stake is worth getting, because it's in terms of how the market, the bidding market, is going to be appraising these things. It's truly impossible to even predict, because we've only had 29 hedron auctions so far, and it sounds like when I talked to Vince yesterday that it was mostly people just playing around with them. So it's not like we have very good information about the pricing of them. And then also there's 6,000 of these coming all at once. So everything's going to be coming down to how in real time it's going to be. These things are going to be changing. We're going to see how competitive the auctions actually are, and so the less restrictions, I think, the better. Great to see you, Code. This live. Thanks to the picture. Has there already been a determination as to how team tokens benefit? No, not yet. Not a code restriction, but tacticals. Yeah, but also the optimal situation is one where the actual strategy that the executor puts into place is a secret and is a mystery, because you don't want to be preparing the competition for how it's going to do. And so I think users just kind of need to understand that you know I mean, one way is just to, because yes, what's your method? Like, I mean, kind of right here is like information about how I personally appraise it, but that doesn't mean that I'm the executor. Um, so where like the main, like a number that like a catch-all number that I like to look at is this value T-share days. That's like a good head-to-head comparison because it captures the earning potential of a stake. So that's just T-shares times days. But then also another number that I don't display here, but on like the back end for like calculation stuff that is used is T-share days per hex staked. So that's also like an important figure because that captures something about like the T-share rate that it got and the size bonuses. So T-share days per hex staked is a pretty important number. T-share days is an important number. And then kind of the range that's established by the principal value of the stake relative to this estimated end value. I think that's pretty important too. But as far as like, in terms of how values are determined per the executor, one, that's at the executor's discretion. And so until that starts playing out in the auctions, it's probably just going to be a mystery. It has to be a mystery. Seems like value should be cost and hex for saying T-share now. Yeah, like how many, like if you were to buy an equivalent stake, that's like a benchmark there. And then it just comes down to like probably more so than trying to equate a value based on the like external market. I mean, something that even is already in the contract here. This was more here. Let me show you this. This was actually more of just like a placeholder one, like in the event that we want to add some type of rule, because what this thing does, it goes liquid max bid. So one way to kind of implement that would be to just like, to give users some type of relief. Is that we could implement. This isn't. There's no guarantee that this is going to be how it ends up being. This is more like I was just trying to add a placeholder for some type of rule based on the bidding, and just the immediate simple idea that I had was to, rather than have some type of cap that's based on market value, just have some cap of relative to competing bids, and have some type of value here where it can only be so much higher than the prior bid. So something like that, to where like there kind of already has to be a bid on that stake in order, and because we need the power to walk away. But we also don't necessarily want to signal how much how much we have, or how much we're willing to do. Like, so putting like a hard cap on a value, we may not even want to leak that information. And so one way to do it would just be to like, if we want to turn these auctions into a like ratchet up situation where we're just like bidding and we'll just ratchet up with the competing bid. That's one way to achieve that similar effect. So that's currently, as of now, I mean, it's here in the code, but it's not to say that this is going to be the rule structure, but probably letting the other people's bids, because that person has to take a risk. If someone is bidding on it, they have to take the risk that we're not gonna push forth, and then they're gonna be stuck with it. So like someone at least is taking the risk of buying at that price, and if we just ratchet up by a little bit past it, that's one way to protect from protect from overpaying. Had a nice convo with YouTube Kitchen. Oh yeah, that was really nice. Thanks, man. Cap the amount of hex for same amount of T-shares, you ensure that even the executor loses if the competitor had to overpay. You ensure that even the executor, the competitor, had to overpay. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, probably the number to look at there would be for the T-share days. Let me pull that back up because like the number of T-shares, like that can be a whole different stake. Like a one stake or a one T-share stake for 30 days is much different than a one T-share stake for that same length. So probably something with like, and that's where it would come down to the T-share days per hex staked, is to kind of do that. But also, yeah, I mean, but it's also like, you know, the executor could have that type of mentality and then not have to like even further like box in the executor, you know, because like who knows what types of psyops that the executor could unleash upon its competitors with like obscure bid strategies, and like who knows, it's mystery. And so less if you're gonna use the executor model, then you might as well take full advantage of it. And then, you know, by making some portion of the treasury be just hedge staking that's not even under executor control or under executor discretion, then I mean that there mitigates a huge amount of risk. So it's like, you know, if we're going to have this model, we might as well take advantage of it. And then here's the other way that the risk of that has been mitigated. That's kind of how I see it. Oh God. Actually, we're going to have tinderhot.xyz, best adult dating site, be our executor. Congratulations. All right, delete these. Blue Bone says, what about replacement cost of T-shares plus hex interest earned plus Hedron mintable plus future Hedron mintable in Hedron? Yeah, I mean, you know, I think all that, you know, because if it's in a contract, it needs to be able to read that information from somewhere reliable. So, you know, but also the actual calculation of that, it can kind of change over time. And you know, what if there's you know, what if the whole HSI bidding market is bidding more than that number, and we're just stuck without them, which I guess isn't the worst case scenario, because, you know, then we just have staked hedron. But like, you know, if you know, I think the executor should be analyzing and comparing that relative value to what you described there. Maximus says, love that response. So glad I'm not going to be competing against the exec. Yeah, it'd be tough competition. Blue says executor solves a lot of problems. Yeah, and like the reason why, I mean, the whole original purpose of that idea was to, like, as long as you ensure that the executor can't run away from the money or can't like directly profit, you know, I guess that, you know, the risk with the executor model is that the executor on the side has a big bag of hedron that you think that they're going to be bidding on stuff and then using their and not compete with themselves from poly. So that's really the risk. And frankly, the executor could do that. You know, it's like the same. It's like there's like that miner extracted value where like the miners see all the trades that are coming in, and because they're the ones that are in charge of publishing the next block, they can do things that give themselves that advantage. That's kind of it's kind of similar in that sense, but you know, you also just have to think that, you know, you'd think that whomever was appointed to be the executor, like, you know, if they already had that big bag of hedron, then they probably could have just won those anyways. So like, why would they be involved in making this? And you know, but you know that, but the executor as a bidder, it, you know, it's one, it can make it more competitive because it's like fully private, like as opposed to building something into a contract, like hard coding it and like telegraphing all that information about strategy, and then kind of leaving it up to like the wisdom of the crowd to do things that really do require like quick decision making and just like, you know, combination of data analysis and intuition. I think that kind of gets lost across, like if it ends up being like some average of everybody, or if it's a kind of up to committee, like, you know, it just may sacrifice there when there's really not any like huge competitive advantage benefit to having it like not be this way. And then, you know, because it is this way, it's like there's clear-cut ways to mitigate the risk. You know, it's like you don't even need to trust the executor because it just basically falls back to be a hedge and staking pool. That on its own is awesome. And so that's like, you know, one worst case scenario. Or the other worst case scenario is that they overpay, but you might have overpaid anyways. Or maybe, you know, if you bought any coin and then you maybe later on you could have got more, it's like you overpaid. So it's like overpaying is something that already happens all the time. So it's not like the executor introduces any new risk that wasn't already there. So yeah, positive thumbs up. That info boom just seems like great idea for dashboard. Yeah. Executor could also not overbid on their personal bids. That's the downside. I almost prefer to have non-Hadronian Hexagon executor. So it needs to be someone very trusted in public. Other crypto events volunteered. Or you do it to catcher. Can't be public. Security issue for the executor. Decide by Twitter poll. That'd be funny. Yeah, I mean, you know, perhaps, I mean, just realistically, perhaps, you know, someone's got to, let me share this part on my screen. Someone's got to set the executor. And, you know, perhaps just, you know, if it's like, if you're already, by opting into using the Maximus contract, you know, both for just like, you know, the general strategy of pooling together to do HSI bidding and to do the hedron bidding or the hedron staking, you know, it's like you're already relying on this contract for those pieces. And so it you know, it makes sense that a lot of users would probably just be fine with whatever address is ended up being typed in here. So yeah, it'll be the address that is the executor, or maybe set of addresses that has the authority to bid. It probably will just be set in the code by me. And then as far as who it is and or who is involved in that, or who's you know, kind of in that orbit, I think it really does need to be a full secret, or at least like a secret until it actually is taking place, because you know, because it's really the success isn't necessarily dependent on the executor at all, and the executor is really just more of a logistics thing. It's not like because there's no guarantee that the executor performs well at all. Like I've laid out all the risks there. The executor could just not win anything, or the executor could overpay and you know, perform relatively ineffectively. So there's really no suggestion that it's going to be good at all. It's more just like a logistics thing where somebody has to do it, and if we had everyone bidding, you know, having to vote to put forth bids, and like the high value information probably gets kind of washed out in that. And then also it's like you have to have a bunch of users flooding the blocks with insignificant transactions to make a decision that should probably just be made, based on the up-to-date information in that moment, by, a motivated group that, is really doing it as like a volunteer service, because you don't really get anything for it. So it probably will just come down to whatever address is typed into there, and then and until it's actually happening, it'll probably be a mystery over who or what goes into that. But it does make a lot of sense that whoever the executor is would want to source a lot of good information from as many people as possible. So, maybe we add on to that into our dashboard here. Like maybe we add on to here some type of thing where people can put forth their, to do that. You think it's some sort of public score telling executor wins and amounts of HSI? Yeah, I mean, it'd all be there. So, and it'd be good if there was something for like the community to kind of like help with this stuff. Jala says, I think Dipcatcher should corral local friends and family, train them, basically give them a job for a couple of weeks. Yeah, I mean, realistically, the smartest, high information, high impact Hexagons I know, they're not on Twitter, they're not on Telegram, they're not in any of our little online worlds. And they've got a lot more hex than most people. And so there are people that are not on Hexagon Twitter that really are the people that I think are highly effective. But also there are people that I do know on crypto Twitter that are also highly, like the people that when I have questions or I want to learn about something, or if I want to like discuss an idea with, there's a handful of people that I gain a lot of knowledge and insight from that I think could be helpful in that. Yeah, and also, I mean, I do have some pretty significant experience using Open Zeppelin Defender. This is a pretty cool website. Let me show you how it works. There's this tool here. So this is actually what I used to kick off all the perpetual pool stakes. So like right here, you see how it like checked through, and then it threw an error. Just that's how I knew it worked, is because it like fails after it, like because it like up until this moment it was trying to run the stake starts, but it wasn't ready to, so it just skipped. But then I knew it worked once it threw the error. But this is something where you can create these tasks. So like we might create one where on some type of schedule, so frequency, so runs every 1 minute. We're going to connect it to, so we generate a relayer, and maybe the relayer is, the thing that can, or maybe the relayer address is on something that can create so like sample executor, mainnet. Let's make sure this doesn't reveal any. Yeah, okay. So Okay. So, so you basically just set up these. So this is called a relayer. So this is a wallet that can run functions. So perhaps, we set up, or maybe what that means is that the executor has to have, like rather than there just being one executor, the executor is just any address from a set of wallets. And so one of them may be the sample executor, where where the community writes some scripts. So here, let's do create auto task. We're going to say test bid. Put it on every minute we're going to run it, connecting to the executor relayer. And then we do something like, let's create that. Keep a completely secret optimization business when you're training them as well. Yeah, I mean, so here, let's go to the auto tasks. Let me just copy this in. We're going to click edit code. So here, this is just like an example of so like, for example, we'd have something like const icosa or hedron address equals whatever it is. And then so every time that this runs, we're going to say, okay, we have the provider, we have the signer. So contract, we're going to say contract is going to be the hedron address, and then say we need hedron ABI. So const hedron ABI equals, we don't have it yet, so let's just there. So hedron ABI, and then maybe we have something like like get liquidation, or no, we'd have a poly. So also poly address. Poly ABI, and then const poly contract equals new ethers.contract poly address poly ABI signer. So maybe we have something like var active bids equals poly contract dot get active bids. So maybe we have like a function there called get active bids, so we can pull this information directly. So we do actually await active bids. Active bids equals await. And like if active bids dot bidder is not equal to executor I'm just like I'm not really writing code. I'm just like kind of framing this, but like, so if that's the case, then we need to do something like so like if the executor is not the bidder, meaning someone has bid more, then maybe here we do like something like value. So like var value equals measure value, and then we pass it like the HSI ID or something. And so then we have a function called measure value, which like measures the value, and then say like if bid is greater than threshold or bid is less than the threshold, we're gonna bid. So poly contract bid ID amount. So something like this we could definitely use to kind of automate the analysis, or like maybe the executor wants to go away for lunch, like they set their bids and they just want to wait and they know what they're going to do. So those are some tools that we could lean into. So here, why don't we just write these rules out in the contract? Let's go there now. Excitement. I see the massive quantity of auctions hitting simultaneously. Would it make sense to define 5 to 6 predefined automated bid strategies with parameters set by exec so she can win as many as possible? Yeah, I mean that could absolutely be the plan. And also what's kind of a good thing about it is like, so when we look at these, so I mainly focus on these big ones. So there's 89 of them in this like larger target range. And most of them are going to be right along here. So, we really are just going to be probably, honestly, what it really comes down to what happened like 24 hours into these. So here, let's look this up. This is actually a question I had. Okay, this is Hedgerin. So when we run loan liquidate, okay, here we go. So require that the timestamp is greater than, okay, so it must be live. Require that the HSI address equals this HSI manager, HSI lists of owner and index, okay, to make sure that the information you pass in, that it's a valid one. HSI index, yeah. So memory share, it pulls in the information about the liquidation. Shared is loaned is true, meaning that you can't liquidate a non-existent loan. Loan term paid is the shared, so payments made times the window. Loan term remaining, loan days minus loan term paid. Outstanding days is current day. So it must be cannot liquidate a loan not in default. Okay, so that's how it checks to see if it's. So the Edgerin loan default threshold. So let's find that. $90 days. On the start. Okay, so it must be right when they all tick over. So I think that does mean that they are all going to start at the same time. Okay, so it looks like as the day ticks over, because if it's based on current day, then as the day ticks over is how it's going to be. So the first bid is always the principal plus interest of the hedron borrowed. So that's interesting. So we probably need to do, I guess that's what this number is, right? Mintable hedron, because isn't that the same number? That's how much they borrowed. I mean, provided they could have the principal, if they, depending on what they paid back, I think it might maybe could change, but this is like the initial bid. Yeah, so what would the equation be for an equivalent stake? So let's see what we can do here. So how would we even, like an equivalent, let's call this equivalent value. Hedron. Look here, let's call it, so hex stake principal. Maybe this can even be from, okay, so like hex stake T shares, hex stake days. Because we don't even need to know the principal of that, because what we're really looking at is to get the equivalent a number of share days, like on an equivalent stake. So hedron X price. Okay, so start with these. So if we know the shares, where's our notebook? With our handy dandy equation on getting the number of T shares per so like how much principal, so it's like if we have that number of T shares, so then there's the current. So that's it's like equation. So if we so why don't we just assume that it's going to be the 2 there, and then why don't we just ignore the big payday? Bigger pays better because it doesn't really matter. So if this is the case, so the like principal equals it would require 10.2 million. And then if the hedron hex price is 0.123 or so 68 billion is like the hedron equivalent, which is 115. $89. Yeah, so I mean, this equivalent value is pretty close that we just have here just by measuring the principal value. Because, I mean, these stakes aren't that old. They can only be like 180 days or so, considering that hedron launched in, April. So it's like we kind of have a framework for comparing these, where anything above that, it's like you might as well just be staking that on your own. So maybe we don't even want, I don't know. We'll have to think more about doing the max fid thing. Rothko asks, we're prioritizing the winning of HSIs and respecting not just their t-shirt value and hedge and yield, but also the timeline of Maximus DAO pools and stake dates make any difference to the executor strategy? Oh yeah. I mean, wouldn't an HSI, or like, wouldn't it be nice if all the HSIs ended way before then and that just happened to be in a bull market? Yeah, that's a very good point. Not to give away any strategy or anything, but yeah, I mean, this thing. Distracted by the amazing mustache. I don't have one. I don't have a mustache. All right. I mean, basically done. I mean, this isn't tested yet. And always when you're testing, you refine stuff. But I think really the next step is to deploy this thing. And then here, let's give some executor. Let's get some. Let's create some testnet executor addresses. So let's see. Where is executor? We're going to say that is executor is true. And let's do another one. So here, these are just two samples. Okay, so two of my testnet development addresses are now executors for testnet. So see, what we want to do is we want to test this through the finalize minting. Okay, so let's do this. Let's make a function we're going to call function current day. Text contract dot current day. That looks like it's in one of these contracts. So just to avoid confusion here, we're going to make this our own function in here, get current day. So we're going to get current day, which is a public view turns 256. And we're going to make it return X contract dot current day. Okay. So we're going to do, so hex contract dot current day is going to be replaced with it current day. So, okay, let's get rid of this. And we also know we need to bring it back in here because this is where it is. But perhaps for now, we may want to be able to increment this. So let's just say we're going to make it, rather than doing that, we're going to do turn test current day. And you went 256 test current day equals kickoff is day test current day equals start day. And then we're going to have a function here that's going to be called function increment test day. It's going to be external. It's going to be public. And then we're going to require that is executor. So this is actually something that can only be run by the executor here, just so no one putzes with our test cases. That's just that sender. Okay. And then we're going to just say test current day equals test current day plus 1. And let's make this public so we can read it. So this will be just for testnet for doing that. Okay, so why don't we, looks like it's compiled. Let's just deploy this thing. Okay, we're on pulse chain testnet. The duration, we're going to say it's going to be 10-day duration. Maybe this one for testing. Let's just do like 3 so we don't have to increment too much. What the heck? This is so weird. I've been having this problem where like it doesn't let me deploy because nothing with ether, like, so I tested, I got a perpetual, is that enable that app? This throws an error, then it's okay. Cancel, so it should be working. So yeah, let's just refresh Remix. Okay, there we go. Okay. So we got that. So now let's see this. Let's go and get our DApp set up. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to break the ground on our DApp. So first, what we're actually going to do here is we're going to make a wallet connection page. So let's do this. Okay, so I guess that's really all I need to do there. So let's just get some examples here. Maybe I just do this on a per page. You watch any hex YouTubers on a regular basis? Not really, unless it's like relevant to stuff that we're doing. Yeah, I can. Okay, guys, I'm gonna hop off. Does it worry you that there are only 200 hex transactions on chain? 200 hex transactions for what? What do you mean 200 hex transactions? Meaning 200. Wait. in general, I'm never worried about anything. So I usually nothing ever worries me. Um, Less transactions for Hex on ETH PO on proof of stake ETH versus ETH POW. Let's see. See which one has the highest volume. I mean, let's just look at this one. 236 transactions over the last 24 hours. And then, so that's on the USDC pair, Hex, ETH, 341 here. So in total, that is like 500 something, 600 maybe. And then we have Hex. Is there any other big volume pair? I mean, 500 Uniswap trades. And then if we look at there's more trading on, I don't know what you're talking about. There's more trading on. Yeah, I mean, there's a way, look, same pair, Ethereum, it's mainnet, 341, Ethereum, POW. Yeah, because I hadn't even looked at this. I mean, that's good though. I mean, it's, I don't mind so much when people just like chase a pump and get wrecked. That's like an important lesson. It's an important part of markets. Like, there need to be the guys buying up here. Wait, you mean something that since launch went up 163% in a day and then went up again 65% one day, didn't just give back that whole gain? There's not. Which Hedron pair? There's 47 transactions on ETH Dub on the Hedron wrapped ETH pair. And there is 249 on ETH. So like a Hedron Hex pair maybe. This one. This is the largest one. Yeah, this is the largest one. 17 on ETH. 25 on ETH POW. So I guess on that pair, but it's relatively low in general. Yeah, I mean, that's something that it's hard to even really, like, that factors into just like the overall state of the market. But it's really just like, okay, how many people made a trade in the last 24 hours? Like, it doesn't really tell you much. So I wouldn't worry too much about like those fine details. It is good to see, like a good indicator of demand. If like every day you see more transactions and every day more of the candles are green, and in that case, that is important information. But And maybe on, I don't know if it's like a video right now, but maybe like that's one of those things that it changes all the time, right? Like day to day. So certain days you may see a lot more activity on one versus the other, especially days that there's like a lot of volatility. You looking to Stargate the level 0 thing? No, I didn't. What is that? Tell me more. Let you in on the competitive advantage of in crypto is not polluting your mind with so many things. That's why I don't. I mean, I'm on the cutting edge of a certain handful of areas of crypto, but I'm not just like chasing the. I mean, partially it's just because we're building solutions. We're not looking for solutions. What is Stargate? I'll look it up. Is this it? Cross-chain bridge for trading? Is it live? See how they handle connection via pulse chain testnet. Okay. Looks like it doesn't like what it's seeing. Okay, so these are the networks it supports. So here, let's switch to. Okay, well, actually, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to. Okay. Okay, so it looks like it's just like a cross chain. Okay, I mean, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like Pulse Chain. Or Pulse X. Yeah. So Stargate is probably a Pulse X competitor. Yeah, literally. This is like a. Yeah. Stargate is a Pulse X competitor. So maybe I should look into it. To the price chart. Okay. Let's see all-time chart. Is this it? Stargate Finance? All right. So launched pretty recently. Looks like a normal token launch chart. Nothing too crazy. It's off the all-time highs by about 3. It's not so bad. Literally looks like a lot of launch charts. But we stay focused here. Well, PulseX is really about the Ethereum copy versus Pulse chain. So in a way, Pulse, in like the Pulse chain ecosystem, it's kind of separate. Where like the bridge is considered separate from PulseX, but like you're really together. PulseX, you're trading bridged over copies. So, multi-chain, that's kind of what you're doing. I don't know if Stargate like settles across chain or if it's just like a bridge pretty much to like a market that connects all of them. So I'm going to have to hop off here pretty soon, but I wanted to do one thing before I did. Let's get the Hedron and Icosa contracts. And then I am going to come eat dinner. Okay, he says, yeah, it's settled across chain finality. Which I'm not sure if I don't know if that's like a major benefit, right? Like, don't you just want to settle after the fact? If like every trade was settled on chain, I mean, maybe I wonder why they do that. Because like if I was building that, I would want to just settle almost never. Okay, guys. So we got that. So and then so then so signer. So what's your wife making for dinner? I don't know. We're probably just gonna eat some leftovers, some stuff we had yesterday. Let's make something. Remote viewer. Explain, please stop across the news. All right, guys. So I'm hopping off. Thanks for joining me today. We got a lot done. We made some good final decisions on Poly Maximus contract. We deployed it to testnet, and now we're setting up our dApps so we can start interacting with it, start testing it out. So thanks for joining me today. We'll talk to you soon.